Well, this place actually picked us. Ryan and I had looked at a number of buildings in the downtown Kent area. This process was probably 2 or 3 years of looking at so many buildings. We knew that we wanted to be within walking distance of downtown. So proximity to downtown was #1 priority. We literally walked into this space and thought, wow, wouldn't this be awesome to have such an inviting space, make it warm, and it could be such a wonderful gathering spot. And then when we toured the garage where the brewery is, my immediate thought was, I can't imagine that they built a gymnasium onto a church without thinking that a brewery could eventually take over the space. Sean Martin took immaculate care of the property. The building on the outside needed very little work. There was a lot of construction that needed to happen to make it not an office space, which is what they were using it for. The floors were the main thing, at least in my mind. There was some definite unlevelness and things that weren't so safe, so these floors needed to be readjusted. The beams that they took out, we had fabricated into these beautiful community tables. A lot of things that were part of the demolition process were saved. For instance, the wainscoting that you see around the bar was repurposed from some of the other areas. This was obviously added to include a bar space and the 2 seats here. The 3 seats on the backside in the booths, those were added. And in the brewery, there was very little that needed to be done as far as the structure went. The floors needed to be replaced, so everything was jackhammered and concrete was laid again and sloped, and then we had our floors refinished. I think that we avoided a lot of potential disasters because Sean had taken such great care of the building. My story generally starts in 1998 when I brewed my first extract batch of beer on a stovetop, and I became extremely fascinated by what was happening inside my carboy. So much so that I started gathering books and reading things. I had met a guy that had tried some home brewing and wasn't really interested in pursuing it any longer, so I kind of commandeered his equipment. I like to say that I permanently borrowed it. I still have it. Some of it is being used in this professional brewing space now. And I became involved with a homebrew club in Cincinnati called the Bloterian Brewing League, and they really kind of honed my excitement into actually creating things worthwhile. As a home brewer, you dump a lot of beer, and that's the way that you learn. So I practiced and dumped and drank and learned. I became a certified beer judge. I am a certified cicerone. I worked volunteer-wise with Hop and Frog and with Thirsty Dog for short stints with each before finally moving to Ohio City, where I worked with Andy DeVikram at Market Garden on their opening, and I was there for about a little under 4 years. I moved to Lancaster, Ohio, and went out to help Rock Mill transition their small brewery into a 15-barrel system. Meanwhile, this is about 2010 when I was 2011 Market Garden wise. The idea was to understand what I needed to learn to be able to bring fresh local beer to Kent. I was 100% convinced that Kent needed a brewery. I know I'm right because there's 3 of us now. We were just a little bit late to the game, and I mean, it was years into my professional development that Ryan and I had met a couple of times, and then we finally got serious. right around 2017-18 into understanding what it took to put a business plan together, to find people to support us. And I mean, the rest just kind of happened naturally. So here I am brewing beer in my hometown. As far as recipes go, there's a few that I've learned to hone from my homebrew days. Most of them, though, are unique to this space. They're unique to me, having not brewed them. I have a big one on right now, which I love, and I have a 4.5% one that people really enjoy too. My idea is that you'll drink what you're familiar with and what you're comfortable with, but maybe next time you walk outside of your comfort zone a little bit and you learn to appreciate some of the more traditional styles. Most of them are seasonal based too. There's a few cores that I'm finding our guests like to have in rotation, and as a brewer I like to have in rotation. So there's always a Saison, there's always something dark to drink. Right now it's Schwarzbier. There's always 4 or 5 lagers. Hefeweizen has become very popular, but I think that there's so much diversity out there that I'm trying to highlight some of those more nuanced styles to get people excited and to keep them excited so you don't get burnt out on one particular beer. The most popular beer, I would say in general, is always whatever single hazy is on tap. And I think it's because it's a style that's become extremely popular over the past decade and really over the past 3 or 4 years. Outside of that, the Pilsner is very popular. There's a couple of lagers that are in normal rotation. And I'm happy about that because I'm an old school drinker myself. And I have reverted back to those standard and true styles of beer. It's like that brewer category of beer. People just want to have a nice sessionable style that doesn't burn your palate out, that you can sit and enjoy a few beers and have some food without feeling stuffed and overwhelmed. My favorites, my favorite right now is Cinquium. It's a wet hop Saison, and it's nice and dry and spicy and fruity. I probably drink Pilsner, the Geisterglock, which means the spirit of the bell. I drink that probably the most frequently. So we just brewed Hermannator, and that's a Doppelbock that will be out somewhere around vernal equinox. And that one is significant because it's named after my father, or at least his last name. Doppelbocks used to be, and they still are, used to be named Ader, or whatever somebody's name was, or whatever some phrase was with the suffix Ader. And I've always wanted to brew something called Hermannator because it just makes me smile that it's like Terminator, Hermannator. But it's a really nice big lager, and it's named after my dad. That's probably, I mean, a lot of them mean something to me, but I think that because it's named after my dad, when I see it on tap number 1, it makes me smile big. We did brew a stout, and we used Cholaca that we procured from LD Carlson. We plan to add some cinnamon and hot pepper. The base has copious amounts of roasted and chocolate malts, a little bit of vanilla to counterbalance that chocolate and or to enhance it. With the variety of beer and kind of what I'd like to see on tap, that Pilsner and the lager category will always be there. Right now there's 8 American ales on tap. 2 of them are fruited. There'll always be a fruited sour of sorts. So yeah, there's new beers coming up. We will be brewing Apricious, which is our apricot tart, here in the next couple of weeks. New beers, I'm always thinking about new beers. And I think that I'm limited right now by when I'm able to maneuver with 3 fermenters and essentially 3 brights. I have 2 lagering tanks and a stand-up bright, so I'm able to keep 17 beers on tap. And I think that for being kind of outside of a busy craft beer market, I think that it's respectable to have a variety of styles mentioned. It's very hard to come up with a beer name. It's easier to have a name and then brew the beer. So right now I have a red IPA on, which is called Hopsallelujah, ! And it's a name of an IPA that I've been sitting on for a long time as a home brewer. In the immediate future, there are some beer education classes that are happening. We are planning some beer dinners. Hopefully we can figure out some time frames. Also, we are interested in hosting other breweries to perhaps have a beer sort of event, whether it's a traditional style of beer or a particular seasonal celebration that might be traditional, or maybe it's just one that we make up. The real answer is that we're still a very young business that is looking to establish our part in the community. And I think that because we have this kind of space available, people are excited to bring their own ideas into it. And we definitely want to support not just local businesses, but local ideas. And to be able to have that gathering space where all this can happen is something that we are 100% into. I'm looking for some collaborations with our own kitchen and with Josh, our extremely talented young chef, to pull off some beer dinners. And so those kinds of things are what we are looking forward to growing into as we move into our second full year of being open for business.
Whenever someone comes in, I always tell them try the specials because they're here for a limited time. We put a lot of work into them every week, coming up with new specials, trying to come up with new, fun, creative ideas. I let my staff impart on that as well, so it allows them to be creative and come up with new ideas. But our chicken sandwich, I constantly get told about how people love it. There's a lot of things I'd like to change and switch up with it, but with the amount of compliments I get with it, I don't know if I can. So we'll see what lies in the future with that. Maybe not taking it away, but maybe adding some things to it. I love pork, specifically barbecue. Barbecue is one of my favorite things. That's one of the things I'm excited for the summer is that, you know, with our new equipment, we can start smoking up some meats fresh in-house. Everything on the menu is handcrafted. Put a lot of thought and work into all our recipes. Everything's an original recipe. So come in, try it all out. You're not going to have a bad time with any of our dishes. Yeah, absolutely. We have some plans for the stout. Me personally, I'm a big stout drinker. Dark beers are my favorites. I love stouts. I love porters. I love Mexican spices. I love Mexican food. Being able to incorporate the stout into our food, I'm excited for it. I love playing with stuff like that. Beautiful thing about dark beers is that they impart a very heavy flavor into whatever you're doing. They're great with braised meats. So once again, going back to pork, if we want to do some braised pork, throwing that stout in there, we can do some fantastic Mexican style dishes with carnitas. We plan on making some stout ice cream coming up, some chocolate Mexican stout ice cream. My baker's super excited to be working on that, Audrey Scola. She's already got plans in the works, recipes made up. So we're just waiting for its release. So you can expect some stout ice cream coming your way, and just a litany of other dishes that we plan to use it in.